What's going on, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Mine and Mateo. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been an interesting week. My wife has been a little sick. I got a little sick earlier on this week, and we've just been working through it, getting everything going, focusing on ending this year off right. It is so crazy how I think we're about halfway through November. What's today, the 14th? Yeah, the 14th. That's insane. I can't believe that we are bringing 2021 to a close and welcoming 2022. And we're going to keep things moving forward. But so I wanted to change things up a little bit. I usually talk about lifestyle, or I talk about business, or things like that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about relationships. That's something that I've wanted to talk about a bit, and I've talked about a little bit in one or two other episodes, but I definitely want to touch more upon that. I've been looking at just how, specifically here in America, how things are going with relationships, with marriage, with love, I guess you could say, quote unquote, and just seeing some of the statistics and everything like that. It's crazy. I'm looking at marriage, and America is very fastly climbing. It's above 40% divorce rate, which means we're approaching half of every marriage. Every group of people, about half of them will become divorced that get married, and that's crazy. That is astronomically high, and seeing how that has been climbing decade after decade, year after year, it's something that steadily it needs to be addressed. It really does, and there are a few reasons I believe that that is, and so I want to go ahead and talk about it. I've got a lot of friends that are Indian, and a lot of my Indian friends have been in arranged marriages. Now, I'm not an expert on arranged marriages. I don't know everything there is to be about arranged marriages. I'm going to put that disclaimer right here, right now. But the way that the marriages are kind of approached is something that I think there are a few takeaways that can be taken from that. And what do I mean by that? When I look at arranged marriage's divorce rate, and now this could be very different. There are a lot of different factors. I haven't gone super deep into this, but you're looking at about a 4% divorce rate. I got that statistic from NBCnews.com. I will put the link in the show notes so you can read the article if you'd like. But that's a drastic difference. I mean, even if you say, the points skewed a little short, maybe it's more like 8%, 10%, 12%. I mean, 4% versus 40%. 10% versus 40%. That's a huge variation. I mean, it's a massive difference. And so I wanted to look at a few different things and why I feel people are putting themselves in situations that lead for divorce. And so, me and my wife have been together. We've been 11 years together as of now. We've been married for 4, going on 5 years. And, it's got its ups and downs. I mean, marriage is awesome. I don't care what anyone says. It's something that shouldn't be taken lightly, but it shouldn't be feared. And it's awesome. It's so great having my wife in my life, and she has made me a better man. And I'm hoping I've been a great husband to her so far. And you can go ahead and ask her. Her channel is at Purpose Uncovered on Instagram, and follow her. She has a lot of great stuff coming out very soon. But yeah, it's great. Marriage is awesome. It's kind of like fatherhood. Or becoming a parent. I know for me, becoming a parent was very scary. I guess you could say it was something that I guess I could say scary. It was something that it was very nerve-wracking for me. I wanted to be a dad, but at the same time, I didn't know what I didn't know about it, and I knew it was a big responsibility, and it was a huge life shift for us. And so, but what I've learned what I've learned now about fatherhood is, so far, it's been awesome. I know there's going to be things that come up, things that will change. There will be, hardships or whatever it might be. But it's awesome. I love it. I love my son so much. I have this new outlook on life every time I just look at him. And he smiles at me with his little gummy smile, with his little tongue sticking out. I absolutely love him. I couldn't imagine my world without him. Me and my wife talk about it all the time. Wow. he's only been here for 2.5 months, and it feels like he's been here forever. And I couldn't see my life now going back to the way it was before he was here. And so marriage is the same thing. Marriage has been something that has is part of the reason I am where I am today. And having that person that knows me better than anyone else. She knows things about me that no one knows, and having just someone that can go through life together and experience things. And it's really weird, because when you've been together for kind of the bit that we've been together, we're just crossed over a decade together. It's crazy. I'm only 29, but when you've been together with somebody you start feeling what they feel, and you start kind of thinking what they think, or knowing what they're thinking when they think it. It's the strangest thing. I don't know how to explain it, but here are a few reasons why I feel like people are getting into could you call them a bad relationship? Yeah, but they're putting themselves in a situation which has a high likelihood of leading to divorce. Number one, first and foremost, I am a really big personal responsibility person. I believe in a ton of personal responsibility, because I feel like there are so many aspects in life where we have the power to change things, but because we make excuses and we shift the responsibility onto others, we neuter ourselves, or we remove the power from ourselves, and it's not a good thing. So number one, first and foremost, I feel like a lot of people are disillusioned, and they're not honest with themselves, and there's a lack of responsibility for you choose who you want to be with, especially, we're in America, or at least I am right now. And a lot of the people that what I'm speaking about is here in America, is you choose who you want to be with. And we'll get into that a little bit, but yeah, people are a little disillusioned, not honest with themselves, and there's a lack of responsibility. 2, they're driven by emotion. 3, insecure and codependent. 4, too many unspoken expectations and too little communication that matter. And number 5, they have no idea what the heck they want. And I these aren't in 1 to 5 of most important, least important. It's just they're all equal. So number 1, people are disillusioned, not honest with themselves, lack of responsibility. You got to ask yourself one thing, and I've said this in another episode. I said it more about lifestyle, where if you keep making or you keep coming across decisions and keep coming across events that you don't find favorable, that you really don't like, then at some point you have to realize it's you making the decisions, and maybe you need to change the way that you think, or you need to learn a little more, you need to do some things. Well, let me say this. You got to ask yourself, if you keep entering into relationships that are not good, or that they're bad, or they're failing, the problem is not everyone else at some point. Patrick Bet-David said this, I believe it was like on a Valuetainment episode or PBD podcast episode, where he said, if you keep having issues with all these other people, and it's the same issue over and over, and you're sitting here, you're saying, man, why do I keep walking into these people that are like this? But the issue is not everyone else. The issue is you. And so, I would say this applies in relationships as well. You have to ask yourself, look, if I keep coming across this thing, for me, when I was dating, I liked bad girls, and I liked people that were girls that were screwed up. And I don't know how else to explain it. That's just what I was drawn to. So, I would find myself when I was dating a girl, it was always the same thing. They were either in an abusive relationship, or they were, cheaters, or whatever it might be. And at some point I had to come to the conclusion of, it's on me. It's not them. They don't have the issue. I keep allowing these people into my life and giving them meaning. And it's on me. It's because I need to improve upon myself so I can stop recreating this outcome. You know what I mean? So, you got to come to that conclusion at some point and say, hey, look, it's not always everybody else. If you keep landing in bad relationship or I won't even say just bad relationship, but relationships that aren't leading anywhere, there's a high likelihood it's you. I'm almost guaranteeing it, right? And so, you have to stop for a moment and you have to take responsibility. Why is it important to take responsibility? Because you take back the power in your life. People don't understand this. We live in a day and age where it's all about entertainment and it's all about feeling good and it's all about running away from conflict, right? You got to have a safe space. You have to be careful with microaggressions. You have to do all this thing. You have to be happy. You gotta get in the good vibes, the positive vibes. Look, we live in a place where a lot of that leads to pushing off responsibility, because responsibility is not always easy. Responsibility is not always fun. Responsibility is not always sexy, but it is good for you in a lot of occasions. And so, and the thing about responsibility is it gives you power to move forward. Some of the biggest things in my life have been massive undertaking of responsibility. 1, my marriage, right? 2, me becoming a father. 3, me becoming an entrepreneur, business owner. 4, me becoming a professional and deciding when I was like 18 years old to actually get into a career and make the jump from doing, dead-end jobs that were entry level and retail and sales and all these other things to actually making the jump to IT, which led me to opening an IT business, right? It all comes from a responsibility. And let me say this, it's always better to have to choose the responsibility than to have responsibility pushed onto you. Because at the end of the day, whether you choose to acknowledge the responsibility is there, it's still there. And you're still going to have to deal with the consequences. That's going to be another episode. But let me say this. You have to take responsibility. And that is empowering. That shouldn't make you feel bad, because you're taking back the power in your life. And that means you have the ability to change whatever it is you're taking responsibility for. And it means, taking some time to figure out what's going on. And number 2, you got to start looking at who you're looking up to. So many times I see people retweeting celebrities for marriage. Listen, I'm not saying anything bad about any celebrities. Not at all. I don't know. I got my own stuff to worry about. Last thing I need to do is worry about somebody else. But what I will say is this. Everything always looks good on the outside. Especially where we're in a social media driven place, you're only seeing the highlights. You're only ever seeing the highlights most of the time. You very rarely see the negatives. So especially when you're looking at these celebrity marriages, you're seeing all the highlights and everything that looks good. And you have to understand another thing too. They're in completely different places. You're not living a celebrity lifestyle. Maybe not right now. Maybe you are. I don't know. I'm just speaking out there. For most people out there, you're middle class, lower middle class. You're kind of on that spectrum, maybe a little higher, a little lower. But you're looking at these things that these celebrities do, and what you're doing is you're putting them on a pedestal, and no one's going to be able to live up to that. You know what I mean? So you're putting them on this pedestal, and then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be cross-examining every relationship you have to this celebrity relationship or these celebrity relationships, and they're not playing by the same rules. It's very different. You just don't know what's going on. What I would say to do is look in your circle and see, and this is kind of dangerous because if you don't have anyone in your circle, you look outside of that. You should meet people. You should surround yourself. I've said it before in other episodes. You become the 5 people you surround yourself with, and so if you don't have a healthy marriage in your circle, then go looking for it. But find a marriage that has the qualities that you want, that you can actually touch and feel and speak to, right? and you can ask questions and you can discuss and you can find out, but it's tangible. It's not on a tabloid. It's not in the news. It's not all over these highly publicized things. It's somebody you can actually speak with and you can touch and you can gain mentorship from, that can kind of guide you. Because I'll tell you this: some of the best experiences in my life with my wife, we've had couples that are older than us that have been married 20, 30, 40 years, that have gone through some things, and there's nothing new under the sun. So they've gone through some things, and so when we hit snags, we're able to pull from them. We're able to say, hey, look, what's going on? I'm kind of experiencing this thing. Have you ever experienced something like that? How did you get through it? Oh yeah, you've been this and that, and oh, okay, cool. Let me try that. And look, 8, 9 times out of 10, it clears up the snag, and me and my wife, we're back zooming and we're going. You know what I mean? So you have to have those tangible relationships to pull from, to actually look at, because the truth is, you'll see everything. You'll see the good and the bad, and you'll be able to pull from that. Number 2, that took a long time to get through number 1, but number 2, marriage. Let's say number 2 is driven by emotion. Yeah, okay, perfect. So I think in the U.S. and this may be other areas around the world, but more so now, where you have the prevalence of romance novels, romance movies, these highly structured stories that are meant to tug at your heartstrings, and they're meant to make you fantasize and really lust after some of these relationships that you're seeing that are in movies, and they're in books and stuff like that, and they're just not real. They're not realistic, and it's playing off of your emotions. And as I've said in a few other episodes, when you're talking about just making decisions in life, when emotion's high or passion is high, reason is usually very low. And that is an awful point most times, 9 times out of 10, I'd say, to make a decision. Because anytime you make a decision out of emotion or out of high passion, you're not making a logical decision most of the times. That's what I think about, at least me personally. That's what I've experienced, what I've seen a lot of the times, and a lot of the advice that I get from a lot of people. So I'll say this. You may not agree with me. I really don't care. This is what I have found in my life. I love my wife deeply. There's in another episode, I'll have to do a backstory about us and how we met and all that kind of stuff. But I've learned that marriage is not about love, and I feel like too many people are starting with love, when love is something that's cultivated. I don't believe it's something that is found. And this is what goes back to some of the arranged marriages. I've got, like I said, a lot of friends that are in arranged marriages, and they deeply love the person that they're with, and it's something that it's grown. Me and my wife, I tell this all the time, but we weren't each other's ideal kind of image of who we were going after. And I'll have to elaborate more another time, but we love each other immensely. Like, she is the love of my life. I'm immensely in love with my wife, and I know that she's immensely in love with me. And it's not a love at first sight thing. It wasn't. We grew into it, and there was a spark there. There was sexual attraction. There was everything that was there, but it was something that was cultivated. It was grown. And so, I think a lot of people are looking for love at first sight, or they're trying to feel something. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't when you're looking around, but what I'm saying is marriage isn't first and foremost about love. I honestly believe that marriage is about duty. And why do I say that? I say that because in order to enter into marriage, you have to have a wedding ceremony where you do what? You exchange vows, right? Well, let's take a look. What is the definition of a vow, right? A vow, as shown on dictionary.com, is a solemn promise, pledge, or personal commitment. A solemn promise made to a deity or saint committing oneself to an act, service, or condition. A solemn or earnest declaration. Did you hear anything about love? About emotion? No, you're making a promise. You're pledging yourself to this other person. You have two people that are now, they're making vows to each other. They're pledging themselves to each other. It doesn't say nothing about love. It doesn't say anything about emotion. It doesn't say anything about any of that. But we've turned it into this thing where, it has to be Prince Charming or Cinderella or whatever it might be. And that's not what it's about. I'm not saying you shouldn't have love in a marriage. No, I think marriages are a beautiful place for love to be cultivated. But what I'm saying is, if you're going looking for love, you got to be careful, because you can love a lot of people, right? And you can get yourself in a position where you love somebody who is destructive. You have to be very careful, very, very careful. And so, like I said, marriage is, in my opinion, it's not about love. It's about duty. You're entering into an agreement with another. And I like to think of it like this, right? Decisions made out of emotions have a high chance of being bad decisions. You can't go into it thinking if it, this is another thing that I hear. If it doesn't work out, I'll get a divorce. When do you take the relationship out of the picture? When do you ever go into like a business deal, or let's say you're shopping, at the at the car dealership, and you're looking at this car and you said, there's a likelihood that this car is going to catastrophically fail on me and cost me a ton of money. And, if anything, I'll just sell it. I'll just sell it. No, I don't know about you. I would never buy a car like that. I wouldn't. Why? Because I know it's going to bring me trouble. It's a big financial investment. It's going to bring me trouble. I want to get the best car that I can possibly have. And I'm not going into it with this thing of, I'll just sell it, whatever. And it's a little bit of a bad example because, you do sell cars and you go in different cars and stuff like that. But you get the picture of what I'm saying. But I think what people need to do is they need to think of it almost like it's the biggest business deal that you'll ever make in your life, really. And why do I say that? Well, think about this. If you get married and you don't have a prenup, you're trading 50% of everything that you make for the rest of your life or until you get divorced. 50% equity you're giving away in the brand of, me in the brand of Mateo, or my wife in the brand of Amanda, for the rest of your life on anything you do. Real estate, businesses, doesn't matter. You just picked yourself a partner that's going to get half of it. Whether they earned it, not, whatever. I don't know who would ever enter into that haphazardly. They wouldn't. It's going to be probably one of the biggest investments in your time ever. Why? You live with this person. You're around them 24/7. It's something that it's always it's work. It's fun. It's great. It's awesome. But it does require discipline. It requires improvement. Nonstop, rest of your life. Why? Because you are two dynamic individuals and you're always going to be changing. So, let's say you have one decade where you guys are hummingly moving in sync and everything like that. Well, guess what? The next decade, you may want to go a different direction. You may be a different person because we're always changing. We're always moving, right? So now that harmony that was going on, that you were in sync, is no longer in sync because now one person decided to kind of pull this way, and now you got to figure out how to, kind of go with the flow or make it work or whatever it might be, right? But it's a massive time sink. And then 3, you're by saying yes to this person, you're saying no to everyone else. Think about that for a second. So I say yes to this one woman, and now no one else is available to me. At least, look, that's the way that I roll my life. Those are the moral values that I abide by, right? And you have to think of it like this too. Now you're also no longer autonomous. You can no longer make decisions on your own. You have someone there that needs to be okay with the decisions that you're making as well. You got to make them together. You can't just do whatever you want, have the bachelor pad, go everywhere, never say nothing. You can't do that anymore, right? So you got to think of this like a business decision as well. That's really what it comes down to is, look, that the stakes are high. You can't just rely on love because listen, love will run out. It will. It's not something to build a firm foundation upon, right? And then let me see, number 3, insecure and codependent. This one's real. I won't say it's easy, but I don't think it's complicated. You can't go into a relationship needing somebody else. You've heard this so many times before. You have to come into relationships as two complete people. And look, you're always going to have things going on. You're always going to have things that you may need to work through. You're always going to be improving, which means if you're improving, there's going to be areas where you're deficient. But you need to be okay with who you are. You need to be okay with the fact that, I'm sorry, let me say this. You need to be focused on personal growth, on improving yourself. And I'll say this, if you can't be okay by yourself and you're going into a relationship because you need somebody else, it's just a recipe for disaster. And I'll say this, like 9 times out of 10, people need to go to therapy. That's just, there's no way around it. I personally go to therapy. It helps me a lot. I have a pretty solid Christian therapist, and it just helps. It helps to have a third party there that's able to filter through some of the things. 4, too many expectations and not enough communication. This is one that me and my wife are currently working through right now, especially as I've stepped into the world of entrepreneurship and business and all this kind of stuff. And, we're parents now and all that good jazz. And expectations can be very, very detrimental to any relationship. They are, think of them they can be like a slow release poison. The longer that you have expectations that are not thoroughly communicated, and they're not agreed upon, the faster the poison spreads, and it gets very toxic, and it's not good. And one person I spoke to said it really nicely. There's expectations and there are obligations. And a lot of times what happens is we have expectations upon somebody, or they have expectations upon us, but we only feel obligated to do something at this certain level. So if they're expecting us to do something at this level, but we only feel obligated to do it at this level, there is always, that's a lot of room for discourse and for resentment and anger and everything like that, and bitterness. And so the biggest way that I have found to work through expectations is to communicate. Really, it's to communicate. And the way that we like to communicate is having brutally honest conversations, which means we can talk about anything, and we don't need to worry about the other person getting giving emotional backlash. So if there's something that's really bothering me, or likewise my wife, we talk about it with each other. It's not always perfect. Life moves fast, but what we're learning is to schedule more and more of these sessions where we're able to just be honest. We're able to stop, slow down, and say exactly how we feel, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment. But be honest with each other, and through that honesty, we're able to see the difference in expectation and obligations, because man, that's a killer. It really is. If expectations are like the silent assassins of a relationship, because most times they're never spoken about, and oftentimes they are pushed down. So so if you have an expectation, you haven't talked about it with your spouse significantly or in depth, where they actually understand what your expectation is and it's agreed upon, because that's another thing. Expectations need to be agreed upon, because you can't just expect somebody to be at this level when they don't want to do something at that level or whatever it might be. And if they don't agree upon it and you still have that expectation, you're just asking to run into a disaster. But being able to speak about those expectations and the obligations, and be honest with each other and set up ground rules and all that kind of stuff, it helps so much. And honestly, that is some of the key factors to how we keep everything well oiled and moving forward in our marriage. Let me see. And then last but not least, you need to get clear about what you want, right? This one is probably, I'd say, one of the most important, if not the most important. But a lot of people, kind of going along with the whole they're looking for love, they don't know what they want. Like, you don't even know what you want in a spouse. Like, 6'2", handsome. Like, girl, you that's not getting clear about what you want. Or you just say, oh, I want her to be a baddie, I want her to be brunette, 5'3", fit. Like, okay, cool, great. It's great to know what you physically like, but you need to also start looking at what is it. Get clear about what you want, because just like I said, marriage is not about love, in my opinion. It's about duty. You're going to be spending the rest of your life with this person, and love is not enough fuel to get you through that. You need to make sure that you guys have similar moral values, that you have someone that you've hitched up to that is going to be there for you in the hard times, that you know how they're going to respond, how they think about certain takes and everything like this. And so, I hate to say it, but it's just like a business decision. I don't want to sound like it's just this transaction, but it follows similar rules. It really does. Like, you wouldn't go into a business decision not having terms for the agreement. You need to have the terms, right? And so the person needs to be able to meet those terms in order for you to sell to them or for you to buy from them, right? It's the same exact thing in the relationship. You can't be just, oh yeah, he's sexy, right? He makes me feel a spark, okay? Or she's fine, she makes me feel good, whatever. You can't be just like that. It's got to be more than that. You have to have a list of things in which for them to check off. Like, for me, I knew I wanted to be married from when I was young. I saw my mom and my dad. I had a great representation of marriage, and they were not perfect whatsoever, but it was something that I knew I wanted. That's what I wanted. I wanted someone who we were in it together. It was this deep sense of togetherness and love, and it's what I wanted from my life. And so it wasn't until I started getting clear, where it's like, look, I may be attracted to all these other kind of girls, the baddies and all this kind of stuff, but what is it that I want morally? I want a woman who I know is not going to cheat on me. I want a woman who is a wife, right? Who can make a home, who can cook, who I can trust is going to be a great mother, who's loving, who will support, who will hold me, to the highest standard. Because I don't want someone who's just going to love me for me, because I don't even love me for me. So how am I going to expect somebody else to love me for me, right? And what I mean by that is, like, I want somebody who's always pushing me to improve, right? They love me, but they're always pushing for me to be the best person, because that's what I want from myself as well, right? And so, I want somebody who's not just going to leave if there are any hard times, right? All these different things. And she checked off every single box. And, if there's one thing that I can say and I said this on my last episode, I believe it was, what are you practicing? If you're not careful, if you're always dating, what you're practicing is getting better at dating. You're not practicing marriage. You have to be married to actually practice marriage. It's just how it is, because look, there are things, every marriage is different, and there are things that you will only go through when you go through it. It's just how it is. And if I were to say the number one mistake I think I made with my wife was the fact that I think we dated for like 6 years, 5 or 6 years before we actually got married. And it should have never have taken that long. Honestly, look, you should be able to make a decision within 6 months. And that was more so a flaw on me as a man, being younger and everything like that. It was a flaw in me. But honestly, look, you should be able to know within 6 months if you want to take a chance on this other person, if you want to come into an agreement and exchange vows with this other person, and you really want to be intentional about that, because time is too precious. It really is. You shouldn't need to be dating somebody 5, 10, 15 years, or bouncing through relationships 2 years at a time to try and find marriage. And quite honestly, I think we've turned dating into trying to play the odds, where it's like you're with someone until you're trying to find Mr. or Mrs. Right. And it shouldn't be about that. You get clear about what you want and you'll find it faster. It really comes down to that. Because it's funny how when you really look for something, you find it really fast. You'd be surprised how you start getting clear about what you want and what you want to see, and then you eventually end up seeing it. It's kind of like, if you ever you've seen something, like you started looking at a certain car. Again, I'm a car guy, so I'll make a lot of car references. But you ever started researching a car that you want to buy, and all of a sudden you see them everywhere? Yeah, it's because you started actually looking for it, and that's why you're seeing it. It was there the whole time. You just never saw it because you weren't looking, right? And so stop dating endlessly. You should be able to make a decision with 6 months. Me personally, I think having the first date be kind of chill. Okay, cool. You can break the ice. You can figure out, a little bit about this person, kind of keep it casual, whatever it might be. But I think after that, you need to start discussing morals and what exactly people are looking at for the relationship. Because look, there's people out there who are looking for serious relationships. I know that things have changed here in the United States, how relationships are viewed and everything like that. But it's even more reason to get clear about what you want, because you'll find somebody who is clear about what they want. And when two people are really clear about what they want and they meet each other, and those values and those things they're searching for line up, it's a beautiful thing. And so there is a questionnaire, a little PDF sheet that Patrick Bet-David put together. I'm going to put the link in the description so that way you can take a look at it. Some really good questions that will help you in the search. But I really hope that this has helped some people. I'm going to be doing a lot more relationship episodes and whatnot, and getting deeper into that, because as me and Amanda start to really get into this thing, and we've been together, like I said, 11 years, and we've had the opportunity to have people pour into our lives and really help us in our marriage. We want to be able to do that to others. And so I won't ruin any kind of announcement, but along with mine and Mateo, my wife is going to be launching her Purpose Uncovered channel very soon. And then we also have another channel that will be announced. And it'll be me and her, and it'll be really awesome and super exciting. But I I hope y'all like it. Have a great one. And if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me. Instagram at Mateo Medina, Twitter at Mateo Medina. I love hearing from you guys. It's awesome. And until the next time, have a great one.